Okay, guys, I'm ready if you are.
CL, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, when Garrison first got to campus, I remember your first press conference, you said that, not specifically to him, but the whole group, if you pieced together all of your big men, you still wouldn't have a big man. So I was wondering, in these 4 years, what areas do you feel like he grew most in to become, the contributor he is now?
Oh my gosh. First of all, I think he's definitely a frontline player, his second team All ACC last year. And he should get a great deal of credit because that was a lot of sweat, a lot of hours in the gym, working on his game, a lot of hours in the weight room, working on his body. I think he's been an incredible player for us. The ball hadn't gone in the basket as much this year as he wants or I won't, but I guess he was the defensive player of the year for us twice. All ACC last year, second team. So he's really had a big time career, and yet he's also been a fantastic leader for us. And it's just unfortunate that the ball hadn't rolled over the rim and gone in as much this year as it did last year. And I'm hopeful that that'll change in the next 5 weeks.
Luke?
Roy, the Naismith Trophy semifinalists came out today, and the ACC didn't have a finalist for about the first time anyone can remember. There's Player of the Year candidates who transferred from Radford and Wofford. This is a league that's prided itself over the years on star power. It doesn't seem to be as much this year. Is that a cyclical thing or a pandemic thing or something else going on there, do you think?
Well, I think several things, Luke. I don't even know how many finalists are there, 5, 10, or what is?
There's 10 semifinalists.
10 semifinalists. I haven't seen it, so it's one of those kind of things you probably shouldn't make too many comments about something unless you've seen it and got some information. But I think a lot this year, people start talking early about the ACC is down. And whether or not it is or not, that's more or less the accepted conclusion. And I think that that's what they've talked about a great deal all year. I've had other coaches say something to me about it. And my problem is I don't spend a lot of time reading the newspapers. And you guys know I don't even know how to bring up certain articles. So I don't read those. But the information I get is during the course of the telecast because I do watch games, particularly of teams that we're getting ready to play, and I hear those comments. But that's a surprise to me. I think we've got some really good players in our league, but it's also when you start thinking about comparing. I mean, when you go from the Zion Williamson zone down, I mean, it's been such a great league for such a long time. I would think perhaps it's just something, an abnormality is what I would think, but I'd have to look into it, Luke, and get more information before I said anything other than that. But I still think there's a lot of those teams that they don't want to come and play in this league.
Brendan?
Hey, Coach. Mark Williams over at Duke has been getting a lot more playing time for them of late. He's basically setting new career highs in minutes every single game. Just wondering, that wasn't the case the first matchup. How does his emergence sort of change the way you've got to try and defend them overall?
Well, I think it's made him a great deal stronger because, and nothing against the Johnson kid that left by any means, but this kid protects the rim. You don't get any easy baskets, and that's way that you can get some or could get some earlier against you because you could score in the lane area. And all of a sudden now you don't score in the lane area. And I watched last night a little bit of their game against Louisville from last Saturday, I guess it was. And the Williams kid for Louisville, the 7-footer, turns and makes a jump hook that nobody's going to get to. And then all of a sudden it was blocked. And so I think that's the first thing, is that he just changes their defense immensely. And it's when we played them, if it was the Johnson kid was in there, we were going to go strong to the rim and focus on the target and not worry about where he was. With the Williams kid, you got to be concerned about where he is. And in one of the last games, I saw a stat sheet where he's 9 for 9 from the floor. So even though Johnson was a double-figure scorer for them and a big-time player, this kid's doing that and blocking everybody's shots on the other end. So I think they're much stronger as a whole team right now with him playing more minutes. But I don't evaluate their team nearly as well as Mike does, so I'll leave that up to him.
Josh Graham.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about Wes Miller. There was a list last year that came out during the summer that had him as the #1 coach under the age of 40, and he just won the SoCon for the 3rd time in the last 5 years. He's mentioned to me a few times that you had an understanding he wanted to be a coach, even dating back to when he was a player. What have you made of the job he's done in Greensboro the last decade?
Well, I think he's been fantastic. I'd like to know how much under 40 the kid is. So I'm having to go through my addition, the numbers of years and everything to see, but I love him to death. He's got some things that I haven't said about other people. One, he got more out of his potential, came closer to reaching his potential than any player I've ever coached. You know, he wasn't a great ball handler. He didn't have great passing ability, but he could shoot the ball and he's tough as nails, and that's where he made his living. And he played as maximum, close to his potential as maximum of anybody I've ever seen. And in my lifetime as a coach, he did a better job of that than anybody. Now, when you put into that, the first conversation we ever had, I'm trying to see if he's interested in transferring here. And I said, what do you want to be doing 10 or 15 years from now? And he said, I want to be a coach. And I said, well, you should come here then. And because thinking that if that's what he wanted to do, I would try to be sharing things with him his entire time here and his entire time afterwards. And that I thought it would be a good situation for him. And it worked out great for us. He was part of some really, really good teams. One year, about halfway through the season, I changed the starting lineup and put him in to get somebody to make more jump shots. And our team got a heck of a lot better. When I'm talking to my team about toughness, I talk about the 3 best charges I've ever had guys take. And one of them was Wes Miller at Arizona. And so he's got the toughness. He had toughness to make shots in games. He's a very bright young man. He's very organized. We talk a lot together now. We talked, I guess, earlier this week or the end of last week. I guess it was Friday night when he was on the bus going up to East Tennessee State. But he thinks the game very well. He's just done a great, great job. He truly is going to be he's already a big-time coach, but he's going to be a big-time coach at a much bigger program one of these days.
Adam Smith.
Hey, Roy, you've mentioned before discipline points, like in practice when we've talked about turnovers and things like that. I'm just wondering what that entails. Is that just running, or is that any other form of punishment? And also just, throughout the season, have you or Coach Robinson or Hubert or anybody, have you guys tried anything different to try to work on the turnover issues? I mean, anything in that regard?
I brought a shovel into practice one day and told them I was going to hit them over the head with the shovel, and they didn't laugh, so I took it back and put it back in the car. But no, guys, I mean, there's only so many things you can do, and I do call it discipline, not punishment. If you turn it over, then you got to pay the consequences. If you don't want to pay the consequences, stop turning the daggum ball over. We had one game where somebody turned it over, I took them out. The next guy turned it over, I took him out. I mean, it's Coach Smith used to always say turnovers are a result of selfishness or carelessness. And I can put almost 100% of the turnovers into one of those categories. So you got to take care of that. It's been the most frustrating part of this season with me is not getting a better handle on turnovers and stop turning the ball over. At some point, and I've had crazy conversations, when you put your hand on the stove, it burns you, you stop putting your hand on the stove. Well, we've turned it over so many times we've gotten burned, but we haven't changed yet. And so whatever I've been doing, it has not been working. So maybe I should have kept the shovel out by the cord or something, but whatever I'm doing so far is not working.
Ross Martin.
So you really did bring a shovel then? I didn't know if you were just playing about that.
You guys think I would ever play with you guys? God almighty. No, I did not bring a shovel. I've told them a lot of other different things that in today's world you cannot say. So you guys don't have to know every daggum thing I do.
Ross Martin.
Hey, Coach. I mean, Saturday is senior night, and I was wondering, Andrew Platek and Garrison Brooks, and I guess the other KJ Smith, Walker Miller, have you had discussions with any of them about using the extra year of eligibility? Is there any news on anybody that may come back or whether they're going to be honored and go on their way into the rest of their careers?
Have not had a single conversation. I think the time for that is when the season's over with, but have not had a single conversation with any of those guys about what their plans are.
And a quick follow-up on Andrew Playtech. You spoke about Garrison Brooks. I was wondering if you could explain what Playtech has meant to the program and over the course of his 4 years at Carolina.
You know, Andrew, I saw him play down in the Peach Jam, and I've always said, nowadays people think you should make the same decisions by watching tape. I just got off a phone call a few moments ago about, well, you've been able to recruit. Everybody's still recruiting. You watch kids on tape, which is the most ridiculous assumption anybody in basketball could ever make. Because if that had been the case, I would never have offered Andrew Playtech. What I saw was ability to make shots that you can see that on tape, but you can't see the toughness. You can't see the other characteristics. I like to watch a guy when the coach takes him out and he comes over to the sideline. Does he throw the towel down and kick a chair over, or does he stop and talk to the coach, and does he cheer for other people? But Andrew fit every category. He had the toughness. He had the ability to make shots. He was a team player. He was a very good student. He wanted to try to play at the highest level that he could. And I've been very happy to say that I was able to coach Andrew. And yeah, I wanted to make more shots and do all those things, but so does he. But he's been a joy to coach, a joy to be around.
Andrew Jones.
Yeah, I'm curious to know if you even own a shovel.
Yeah, I own a shovel. I own a pick. Used to own a chainsaw. I used to be able to change my own oil, and now you have to open the hood so you can see if there's a dipstick in there. And I said dipstick is what I said. But nowadays, almost no one can do work on their car.
You got me on some of that stuff. Since the first Duke game, Caleb had a huge night. But since then, he hasn't shot a high percentage from the field. I think he's only scored 42 points. What has been maybe an issue with him as far as that goes? And also, is there something that you've seen in him grow since then that the media and fans have not seen?
You know, he wasn't scoring a great percentage even before that game. So it really hasn't changed except that game. So I'd like to have another one of that games on Saturday. There's no question about that. I think he was 4 for 5 from 3-point line, and that's by far the best percentage that he's had. I see things that he's improving on every day in practice, coming down and seeing the court and finding other people. He was a scoring guard, a volume shooter in high school, and he had to score a lot of points so they didn't have a chance to win. But if you want to be a point guard, you got to be able to make your own plays and make plays for other people. And that's where I've seen him grow the most, making bounce passes, feeding the post inside, or coming down the court and seeing the whole court and seeing that Kerwin's on the other side and you need to get the ball to him over there. So I've seen improvement there, and I don't have the breakdown in front of me and some stats I look at, but I would bet that Caleb's stats are probably similar, but perhaps a little better in league play than they were in prior to that. And that's hard to do because the competition is so much better. So I see him getting better, but we just got to continue to push because we need him to get better at a quicker rate.
Kip Coons.
Yeah. Hi, Roy. I've been pleased to cover Carolina-Duke rivalry for 45 years now.
Wow.
And honestly, I cannot remember a time when there was not a number one seed or a conference regular season championship or something major at stake. And right now it seems like the biggest prize is, besides bragging rights, is exchanging a spot on the NCAA bubble. How does that affect this rivalry Saturday? And does it diminish it at all, or it certainly changes it?
Well, it changes it, I think, Kip, from the outside. I don't think it changes inside at all. It is Duke, North Carolina. The rivalry is there regardless. People say that the games always live up to the hype, and I don't think any of them live up to the hype if we lose. So it depends on what you're looking for. But no, it's different. There's no question about that. I can't remember. I know in 2010, we weren't very good. They won the national championship. But last year, we weren't very good again and had everybody hurt. Every time I'd come to practice, I'd have to spend time erasing names off the practice plan because I thought somebody was going to practice and they were not. But this is unusual, but I don't think it, from my viewpoint, I don't know that it makes any difference at all between the two teams or the two coaches. It's still Duke versus North Carolina, an ACC game into the regular season. And for me, we're just going to try to play as well as we can play and see what's going to happen on next week, or I guess this week when we find out where everybody's placed in the ACC tournament, and then play your tail off and see what happens after that.
Got time for two last questions. Mitchell Northam, then CL. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, Coach. You had some fans in the Smith Center for your game against Florida State, but the Duke game is different because of the rivalry. How do you think the team will appreciate having fans in the building for this game to cap off the regular season, considering everything y'all have been through this year with COVID?
I think the players really appreciated the group that was here last weekend. I don't know that they can have any greater appreciation for this because we're going to bring the same number in. I don't know that they can have a greater appreciation for them coming against Duke. The crowd was sensational. They were in it. They were in it the whole game. They were important to us at the end. So I'm hopeful that they'll be that same way. And, you know, it's the game is a big game. It's Duke, North Carolina. And I think that we want the fans to come in. I think the student sections, where I looked up there a couple of times, and my wife told me about after the game, we need them to stay a little more separated and try to follow the rules and keep their masks on so they can help each other and what they're doing before and after the game when they gather. We don't want anybody having any problems with the virus by the way they act during the game or after the game. But our fans last Saturday were sensational, and I would expect that they would try to do the same thing this weekend. And I think that the coaches and the players would really appreciate everything they've already done and will continue to do.
Last question, CL, go ahead.
Roy, I wanted to go back to, the summer coaches calls that you guys had weekly. How do you feel like those calls helped make dealing with the challenges of the pandemic and the protocols and everything? How did that kind of make it better for the league and going into the season?
You know, CL, I don't know that I get that specific. I think the phone calls were really good, that we voiced our opinions on the way we wanted to do things. We voiced our information that we're getting from our medical people. I think we understood each other even more often. We had more phone conversations last week than we've had in our last summer. Spring, summer, and fall, they started pretty early and lasted pretty late. I think I was on more phone calls with the coaches than I have in my first 17 years here put together. And so I think we got to know each other a little bit better, and guys' opinions on different things. We were all in it together, regardless of what the conversation might have started. At the end, we thought what was best for the league, and that's what we went with. So I think it was great for us, but you know, COVID-19, there's no blueprint. Nobody had any idea what the heck we were going to face. I think if you had told all the coaches you were going to play as many games as we played, I think they would have been surprised that we've been able to play as many as we have. And different guys have played more games, but it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge in my mind since July 6th when our players came back on campus. I was scared to death. So it's been a challenge all year long, and it is still a challenge when we're talking right now about what's going to happen next week at the ACC tournament and who's going to the NCAAs and who's not. And I mean, it's just been, you know, everybody was happy to see 2021 leave. And I think that I'd be happy to get closer back to a regular basketball season. And I'll be glad when 2021 and all the junk that we had to go through, I'd be really ecstatic to be able to get back to a little more normal season than we've had this year.
Coach, thank you very much. We'll get Garrison in here next. Davis, Wallace, and Greg Hall, if you guys have questions for G, you guys will go first since I ran out of time. Sorry, Greg. Ross took your second question for Inside Carolina, so I couldn't get to you. Sorry.
Oh, it's always Ross's fault.
Yeah, figures. Most people just play. All right, Gregory, here's G. Go ahead with the question, please.
Garrison, I was just curious. This is really Kerwin's first poor shooting stretch in a while, if not all season. I was just wondering how he was handling it and if you've kind of had to say anything to him as the leader of this team to try to get him focused on just that he's capable of making shots and just to keep making them.
Yeah, said something to him during the game, after the game. It's tough on him, of course. I mean, it's a guy that wants to make a lot of shots for us, wants to make every shot he takes. But I think he's tough enough to get through it. I think he's made enough shots to where his confidence is high enough still. So I think he'll be fine. I just try to keep my voice in his ear and pretty much talk to him and tell him he's gonna be all right.
CL.
Garrison, I don't remember asking this earlier in the season, but how did you view being named the preseason player of the year? And did that put any undue pressure? Did you put any extra pressure on yourself because of that coming into this season?
Nah, that stuff don't matter. I mean, we at this point in the season, it don't really matter. I ain't gonna lie to you. But it was fine. It was nice to be named that, but I didn't overthink it.
Andrew.
Garrison, I remember asking you a few questions in the locker room at Tennessee after you guys picked up a big win your freshman year, and your answers were about 5 or 6 words each. As you've gone through your career at Carolina, your answers have got longer. How have you grown in that aspect, and how uncomfortable was it for you when you first got to UNC dealing with the media, and how have you grown in getting more comfortable with us and the kind of things that we ask you?
Yeah, to be honest, I still wish they were about 5 or 6 words, but it's a lot better now. It's something I enjoy doing. I mean, just over time, Kirsch has helped me, Matt has helped me just really get better, become more comfortable with me to thinking about what I'm going to say, and just being better as a whole during interviews.
Brendan?
Hey, Garrison, yeah, this is obviously going to be senior night for you. And Roy had said you guys hadn't had a conversation about the super senior year yet. But if this is your last game in the Smith Center, how do you want to be remembered as a Tar Heel? How do you want your career to be remembered?
Yeah, I don't know, but he want to be remembered as like a hardworking guy, great teammate, kind of guy that has grown since day one. I think that's something I always want to look back at, and just a guy that overall just had a lot of fun over 4 years.
Oh, I'll turn them off. Oops, just joking. Wrong ones.
I have no idea where that's coming from. Make sure you're muted, please.
Well, normally.
Adam Smith.
They're all like retro Jordans. This wall also lights up.
It's not me, I don't think. Garrison, this season, as a captain and as a leader of the team, has there been any particular moment or time where something has happened, I don't know, good or bad, to where you said to yourself, you know what, I'm the oldest guy here, I'm the most experienced guy here, I need to take care of this, I need to handle this, I need to go talk to him? Like it seems like you've embraced that leadership role. Has there been any particular time that stands out where you're like, you know what, this is who I am and I have to go do this now?
I've had a couple moments like that this year. I can't think back to one specific one right now, but definitely I had to realize I had to go into that role and be the voice of our team, be the voice of reason, and always thinking for what's best for us and trying to get everybody on the same page.
Raise your hand. Jacob Turner, go ahead. Raise your hand. Anybody else? A follow-up is fine. We've got G for a few more minutes. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Garrison? Mark Williams is a guy that's kind of emerged since you guys last played Duke as a big time threat for them down low. What have you seen out of him, and what kind of challenges does he bring on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, he's a really good player. I mean, of course, he's at Duke. Really good rim protector, finisher around the basket. I think he could be really good one day. I think we just have to use our bigs at our advantage and do what we do best.
Bren, and then CL.
Hey Garrison, yeah, I was going to ask you. You know, you were just talking about having to be the voice of reason, having to be the leader sometimes. Armando had such a good start to the season and has sort of slowed here a little bit lately. Have you and he had any conversations about anything related to that? Trying to regain focus, the importance of this moment. What can you do to sort of get him back at the pace he was at earlier this season?
Mondo will be fine. He's a really good player in his own right. He's seen stretches like this. He's played well before. He knows season has ups and downs. So Mondo is fine.
CL, then Ross.
Garrison, I don't know how much you've reflected back on your 4 years so far, but what areas do you feel like did you maybe even surprise yourself in growing from your freshman year to now? Could it be the leadership aspect of it? Could it be, like just physically the playing aspect, how you've grown? What do you think?
Of course, physically playing. I never thought, if you would ask me my first day, would I be as physical? Would I be as good as I am now? I would have believed you, but I couldn't see it at the moment. Definitely never saw myself being the leader that I am now.
Last two, Ross, then Adam.
Hey Garrison, your incoming freshman class. Obviously, a couple guys still aren't here anymore. It's you, Sterling, and Playtech. I was wondering your thoughts on kind of Andrew's UNC career, your relationship with him, and what do you think he means to the UNC program? Because y'all been together for the last 4 years.
Man, you kind of left out KJ and Walker, but
scholarship.
Playtech's a great guy. Guy I met on my visit. Means a lot, man, that he's still here. Hard-working guy. He's not the nicest, but I think he's a great human being. I think that personally, man, he's going to be one of my best friends for the rest of my life. I appreciate him because he works hard every day. He tries to get things done for us.
Last question, Adam.
Garrison, you were part of teams that went to the NCAA tournament your first 2 years. Obviously, last year was something different altogether. But, I assume that is the goal, just to get back to the tournament. And what would that mean to you to be able to get back your senior year? And what are you saying to these guys about that? What do you guys talk about with the tournament?
It means a lot, especially coming from last year. But pretty much the thing I try to emphasize with guys is one day at a time. We can't go win the ACC championship tournament, the ACC tournament championship tomorrow. So let's work on getting better tomorrow, and then we'll win Saturday, and then we can worry about what's to come next. But one day at a time.
All right, Garrison, thank you very much. We'll get Leaky in here in just a moment. Walking in, CL, you got the first one.
Hey, Leaky, I was wondering what ways you've seen Garrison grow in your 3 years being on the team with him.
I felt like just he's more of a leader now. He's willing to take on that role of being the guy. Even though we have a lot of horsepower on this team, I feel like he's willing to take the blame. Step up. For everyone else slacking, kind of thing. It's just leadership. It's just made a huge jump since I've been here.
You'll follow up, CL? There's only a couple hands raised. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So can you kind of describe what he's like in the locker room in terms of a presence? It seems from the outside looking in that he can be kind of he can bring levity to situations and it's not all serious.
Yeah. As you see on like the Biggs camera, like on social media stuff, he's just always joking around. It's just like off the court, he's just, fun guy. He's just, joking around a lot. He's like a big kid, and on the court, he's, serious. So when he steps between the lines, he's just, cutthroat kind of thing. And outside, he's just one big kid. So.
Brendan?
Hey, Leaky. We were talking to Roy a little bit earlier. Mark Williams at Duke has been playing a lot more minutes for them of late, and that sort of changes the things that you guys can do offensively. Well, how, in your mind, does that change things for you? Is it attacking the lane less? Is it getting the bigs ball in different positions? What are sort of the new focuses with him sort of emerging as a shot blocker for them?
I don't think anything changes. Shot blocker in the game or not, we want to get the ball to the bigs, get as many people in foul trouble as possible. They obviously shoot a higher rate than us guards right now. And so the best thing would do is get them the ball inside and let them, go to work. So I don't think anything changes.
Tom Shanahan, excuse me.
Hey, Leaky, from the outside, it's not the usual Duke North Carolina game for a title or a number one seed. Can you tell us how the players view the game?
What was the question?
From the outside, it's not for a title or a number one seed, but it's still Duke North Carolina. How do the players see it?
It's just like another big game. They know it's Duke Carolina regardless, unranked or not. And, everyone's going to be tuned in, I'm pretty sure. So you always want to play your best. It's always an audition. Somebody new might be watching. You never know. So let's go out and play hard. They know what's at stake here.
Adam Smith.
Leaky, when you're talking about Garrison, you mentioned him being willing to step up and take the blame sometimes. Like, what's the level there of acceptance of what he's willing to bear the brunt of?
Can't really get into that, but I feel like in practice or in a game, somebody misses a defensive assignment, G's willing to, do a little bit of extra on the defensive end to make up for whoever's slacking and that kind of thing. That's what I meant by that.
I just didn't know if you meant, it seemed like maybe in December, Roy, when he talked about changing the starting lineup after state for some of the first state game, for some of the defensive assignments that weren't great, he made it seem like, I don't know, like Garrison might have volunteered to be taken out of the lineup. I don't know if I heard that wrong or right.
I'm not too sure on what happened there.
I think what he said was that after the first game when he, Leaky, and Caleb did not start against NC State, Coach was going to put Leaky and Garrison both back into the starting lineup. But G didn't feel he didn't want to have the freshman be the only one that didn't. So he said, Coach, I'm fine with not starting too. That's what he was talking about.
Oh, well.
You didn't even know that, did you, Leaky?
Yeah.
Huh?
Didn't know that. Yeah. See,
Andrew Jones.
Garrison is.
Leaky, we have heard stories from some of the guys the last couple of years about Garrison's subtle sense of humor. Is there something in his subtle sense of humor that regularly cracks you up?
Yeah, to me, I don't think he's funny, but it's just I think he's more corny than anything, but I feel like his corniness is what cracks me up, so that's all I say.
Do you see it coming when you kind of know, oh, here's a moment Garrison's going to kind of do his thing?
Yeah, every time I walk by him, I just try not to look at him because I just know he's going to say something, yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Oh.
Anybody else for Leaky? Art? Go ahead, Art.
Leaky, in looking at the film about Syracuse and how Buddy was covered or he wasn't covered, how did he end up with so many, for a guy who's like their best shooter and had 18 in the first half in Chapel Hill and 17 in the first half, what were the results of why he got so many good shots?
It's not finding him in the fast break. I feel like it was more fast break than anything. I felt like half court, I felt like we did a good job of, finding them is just when their teammates started penetrating and getting easy baskets, people started over helping, and he would relocate and they would just kick it out to him and it'd be too late. All he needs is an inch and is going up. And a guy who shoots that rate, he's making way more than he's missing. So he just did a bad job of finding him in transition. I felt that was the best. think the mic is muted.
Art, unmute yourself.
In as far as not finding him and so forth, was there any talk about shadowing him or just not letting him get the ball? I mean, it seemed to me like he was their only consistent outside shooter.
Right. Yeah, like I said, in half-court offense, I feel like we did a good job of denying him and making him work for his shots. But it was just like in transition when they would get the ball, running from behind and just playing catch up at that point. He's already in the corner while you're on the other end of the court. So it's too late at that point. The fast break points is where you hurt us the most.
Adam Smith.
Leaky, I'm wondering if there has been a point in the last month or a couple weeks, maybe after you beat Duke the first time, after you blew out Louisville, after you played so well against Florida State, where you have said to yourself, you know what, we have finally turned the corner here. I mean, has there been a moment like that after one of your better games? This team has been so up and down. Has there been a moment like that where you're like, all right, we've finally gotten to where we need to be?
I think after the first Duke game is when I started really feeling it, and it was another game. I'm drawing a blank right now on which game it was, but it was a couple times where you're like, dang, like this team really be good. Like once we all, start playing, but we just feel like right now we're just so inconsistent, and it's what's hurting us.
All right, thank you, Leaky. Thanks everybody. Appreciate you being on.
Thanks, Leaky. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Gus.